Amazing. Then I think we will just start. And today we are live broadcasting from Denmark, Aarhus, where I'm right now, and from Sweden. And before we start, I will give the word to you, Martin and Lennart, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, my name is Malin Dahl, and I'm the delivery manager and ServiceNow platform owner at Nordlo Improve.
Hello, Malin.
Lennart Smojanets work as a trusted advisor and lead the customer industry workflow community at the Cloud People as well in Sweden.
And thank you, Malin and Lennart. And my name is Sasha, and I'm the marketing manager here at the Cloud People. And today, you two will do all the talking. But before, I will just shortly give a short introduction to this platform. And then a short introduction to the Cloud People. And then I will hand over the word to the two of you. We're using the Livestorm function or the Livestorm platform today. And we have a chat. So if you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to ask. And then I will interrupt you and make sure that they are answered. Also, we will have some polls during this webinar. They will pop up on the screen. So please feel free to answer them. And if you have any problems, then please write in the chat or send me an email, and then we will help you solve this. Then some of you might know us already, some of you may not, but we are the Cloud People, and we are a pure play ServiceNow lead partner. And we have 350 consultants located across Northern Europe and Americas. And if you want to hear more about us, you're more than happy to get in touch with us. But I think right now, today, I'm really happy to have you, Lennart and Malin, to talk about this CSM journey. So I will hand over the word to you.
Thank you. I hope the technology works. So before we actually start, we're going to do a brief crash course before we embark on the actual journey, which the Cloud People have done together with Nordlo Improve. So before we start, a first poll that we will ask today in regards to the offerings that your company provides to the market. So what is kind of your role? Which products and services does your company offer? And you have 4 options which you can choose. The last one is if you're just an internal provider, and if you don't actually serve external customers, then you just choose the last one. So hopefully we can get that one going, and then just do a little bit of a recap of what we've done this spring, because a colleague of ours, Tapio Silvera, was presenting a webinar, which you can watch as a prequel to this session, in a way. It's very popular these days to run a lot of prequels to a series of movies or books. So you can watch this prequel, just scan the QR code, and it will link you directly to that session where we kind of theoretically explained what is the role of the ITSM towards the customer service management. And why this? Yes, because it's a kind of a baseline for the discussion which we are going to, or for the journey which we are going to present this afternoon. In regards to the overall differences between the ITSM and the CSM, it's very important to understand that the ITSM, and especially in ServiceNow, because that's what we talk about here, is primarily meant to support your own employees and internal staff in regards to their everyday requests, everyday issues, incidents, changes, and support your internal business. While the customer service management as a product and as a concept is really meant for serving your external customers and their internal stakeholders at the same time, and maybe your partners in providing the services and operating these services and the products which you deliver to the external market, and really fulfill a customer engagement between yourself as a service provider and your customer entity. Either that one is a B2B or B2C or any kind of other relationship. So in regards to the capability mapping between these two products, because especially if you're an old customer to ServiceNow, and if you have been running ServiceNow for quite some time, and it will be this journey that we will be, or this story we will be talking about today, there is a specific capability which is kind of exclusive to the customer service management. And this is really good to know, because some of the customers or ServiceNow customers that embarked on the ITSM journey, maybe very early, or just kind of embarked on the ITSM, and then moved towards, can we help our external customers, started discussing how do you actually enable that kind of practice within the ITSM. And again, ITSM is not supposed to do that. And if you customize the ITSM, then you need to build all these exclusive capabilities, which you can see on the list, which in itself actually just result in a quite large technical debt. So again, very important kind of differentiation between the ITSM and the CSM, both as concepts or frameworks, but then even as a kind of the product differences of the ServiceNow platform and what they offer, so which capabilities they have, and how they actually support your organization and your business to providing a value to your internal users and your external customers. CSM, just kind of to touch on one important, maybe a misconception. CSM is not just for the customer service organization. There's an end-to-end concept, which we often refer to as a customer service and customer operations, where case management, which most often is used together with the omni-channel layer, so portals, mobile apps, any kind of interfaces towards, well, that front line or front office, which most often is kind of referred in different labels and namings: service desks, call centers, front offices, customer centers, or customer service desks. Behind them, there's the entire organization which actually produces the services, and especially if you are a service provider that provide digital products, then there's that entire engine where you use your internal processes. So this is where the ITSM comes into play. And why is this? Well, it's very simple, because we want to simplify that interaction towards our customer. They can't care less whether it's an incident or problem or a change which we as a service provider need to solve. They have an issue, they have a request which they want to get fulfilled, and that's kind of their primary concern. And again, behind that, this whole engine or this whole concept of how do we build, how do we design, how do we operate our services, which we offer to our external market, that happens in most often used customer operations labels, mid offices, back offices, and that's how the actual combination or the end-to-end concept or a portfolio applications in ServiceNow provides a support for this concept. So it's a better together story between the CSM, the ITSM, if you actually run a service provider within the IT. So if you're an IT service provider, then you have even your IT operations, and you might or might not use the ServiceNow capabilities, but you definitely have your own monitoring, you have your own discovery, which creates events, which in itself kind of build this proactive service and capability to inform your impacted customers. And then on top of these things, you most probably run a lot of projects where you might or might not involve your customers. Customer project management is not depicted here, but again, it's a part of this end-to-end story. So kind of the theoretical walkthrough of the CSM, the customer experience concept, and customer service and operations concept, before we kind of dig into detail what we have done and how we have used this theory to embark on the journey together with Nordlo Improve. But before we get there, of course, let's have another poll. So how do you actually serve your customers today using kind of ServiceNow CSM capabilities? Are you just using ITSM capabilities? Have you customized, do you have custom apps, or did you customize the ITSM? Or you don't even use ServiceNow, but maybe you would like to. So have a go before we then jump on the actual journey. So Malin, will you take us on that one?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here today and share our journey with ServiceNow. We started over 10 years ago when we chose their platform as our operating system. We start to implement ITSM, its incident, request, problem, change, knowledge, and CMDB to meet our customers' needs at that time. We serve today around 20,000 end users in municipality and private companies. Our partnership with ServiceNow has grown over the years, and the platform has helped us to streamline process, improve our collaboration and support for our customers. So, what challenge do we face today? When we onboard the customer for the first time, the right way, or the best practice for around 10 years ago, was to adapt ServiceNow to meet each customer's own needs. Today, it leads us to many customization solutions that cost us a lot of time to manage, and is difficult to go back to the out-of-the-box solutions. That we need to do today, it's to reinvent the wheel all the time for each customer, even if we know we should use the out-of-the-box solutions. The problem that we have is several workflows. Search, for example, invoicing or time reporting, are manual and exist in another system. To make this difficult to keep up the development and implement new functions, we now want to start the journey to using out-of-the-box solution and best practice to improve and upgrade our platform. So this is now we realize that we need a partner to work with.
Yes, and that has led us to the actual plan, or how did we kind of meet these challenges, and how did we assess the actual state where Nordlo Improve was? Malin was referring to today. That was actually almost a year ago when we embarked on this joint journey, which we then started together in a very standard way. When the cloud people gets involved, we start to kind of approach every single change journey that is ahead of us by applying a continual improvement model. You might know this from ITIL 3 or ITIL 4 or any kind of quality assurance frameworks. But we did it more in a kind of the controlled way. And I'm not going to read all the bullet points. You can do that on your own. So just in a simplified manner, it was the assessment of the current state. So where was Nordlo Improve? These challenges which Malin just described. And then, of course, where did we, at that point, want to go together to kind of end up in a better position? And then decide, so create a plan, how do we actually jointly get there? Because there are, of course, decisions to be made, and we know which platform we are going to use to enable that change. So assessing the current state, and at the same time, we needed to understand the objectives to be able to build the scope. So to understand the overall objectives, Malin, could you explain which those were?
Yeah, I can try to explain a little bit. But we realized that we need to identify and improve manual steps from sales to deliver by connecting our processes, such as sales, procurement, service, and delivery. We want to automate these steps, not only to save time, but also to give a better quality and create as much self-service as possible to our customer. To succeed, we need to make a culture shift, new routines and training for colleagues, customer, and end users.
So these were the objectives which we assessed. So we had a kind of the current state, so the starting point for a journey, and then we created this transformation plan based on how do we meet the objectives which Nordlo Improve had at that point, and looking into a future, where does Nordlo Improve want to be? And then map all these things into, of course, the ServiceNow product and platform capabilities. And this actual plan represents a very standard model approach which we use at the Cloud People. The most important thing is that at the same time, we started very tight relationship with ServiceNow in order to get that transformation as smooth as possible. So we've discovered, for example, or we decided very early that it's going to be very hard to manage this customized environment and try to shift it to a CSM greenfield to start with. So we've started the discussion with ServiceNow how to get a greenfield, extra environment or extra instance for the transformation timeline. We've even started kind of discussion on how can we use the power of the ServiceNow platform, because one of the kind of challenges which we received during that assessment was, well, we would like to use Integration Hub, but we don't have the spokes. And at the same time, ServiceNow changed the licensing model, so suddenly spokes became product related. So we kind of did the uplift of then current CSM v5 license to CSM v7 license where the difference was that Integration Hub spokes were included in that license. So we didn't need to worry whether we would have them or not. We have started discussion on, because in that old instance or the old environment, Nordlo Improve has built the custom HR application. And as we all know, there's an HR service delivery application, which actually fulfills a lot of use cases which were built in that custom application. So we've started, again, the contractual discussions on that. Procurement was one of the topics which we had a lot of discussions with. So again, contractual discussions with ServiceNow. And all of that were started happening already during the assessment phase. And then we started to design this transformation plan in regards to the, of course, there will be a greenfield implementation, there will be a new contract in place, and we would be able to actually make this shift and make it successfully with, I want to emphasize here, that dark gray box at the bottom of this model, a lot of organizational change management, because there has been a lot of preparation and discussion in regards to the customer and internal planning and preparation for onboarding. And of course, we can't do all things at once, so we decided we're going to kind of split this into two phases. The first phase, which would enable the move from the old environment into the new greenfield one, and then moving all the customers with all the relevant capabilities which are already in place. And then after that, when we move them, we start working with those internal controls and internal improving internal service quality. So the procurement, the HR, and kind of lift that in once we actually onboarded or we've done that first phase. And of course, this would be joint, the Cloud People Nordlo Improve project with shared project actions. And then we kind of embarked on that journey from there. So before we describe the journey, let's have a next poll. So how would you rate your overall CSM, and by that saying customer service and operations maturity? So kind of that end-to-end concept which I was talking about earlier. So you have 4 choices: a starter, maybe you have just embarked on the journey, so maybe it's too early to tell. Maybe you still have kind of a disconnected experience, simple case management, or you follow a very good CSM framework, but you feel that there might be still room for improvement. And then, of course, maybe some of you have a top notch. So in that case, you can probably be very happy and speak to ServiceNow to get awarded for this brilliant journey. And let us now kind of deep dive into that present, which started January this year. So the moment in time, our phased approach of transforming from the kind of that customized IT service management into customer service management and moving towards using ServiceNow as a digital platform for the business, for Nordlo Improve. As every journey, we needed to kind of draw the map. And this is our conceptual model, which we position in what we call an analysis and design phase of the implementation. And what do we do here? We actually go just into kind of architectural discussions in regards to the architecture, integrations, some policy making or policy decision making, and then planning for the customer and team's onboarding. And all of that is really for the purpose of having a sound base for the technical part of the implementation. So deciding, how do we move the customer data? Where does the master data reside? If it doesn't reside, where do we place it? Where do we find it? How do we integrate? With which interfaces do we need to integrate with in order to be able to actually have a very sound flow of data that is required for the practices and the processes to function? And of course, some of these discussions actually led in this particular case that we modernized the landscape. There used to be a data lake or data warehouse, but that was kind of obsolete. It wasn't really fit for purpose. So the decisions were made to build a more modern platform for data management, and so on and so on. So this one represents what we usually call or label as the drawing board, because it's really just a lot of workshopping in regards to, okay, how do we do this? How will we bring in data? Where will we find the data? How will we govern the data? Decide on a particular taxonomies, and so on. And then, of course, plan for customer onboardings and plan for the team's onboarding. So our internal employees that will actually serve these customers, they need to be taken care of as well. So that was kind of the first theoretical step of the implementation in a way. And we decided some of the things which became a base for that technical implementation. So we decided that we will be using ServiceNow as a product catalog master for Nordlo Improve. So we moved all the products, because in ServiceNow CSM, we work with products, we sell digital products to our customers. And all that data would be mastered in ServiceNow. One of the decisions which were made. Historically, every single customer had their own individual SLAs. And this has been an enormous challenge to govern, to maintain, to actually have an alignment to the actual contract. So we created the framework for the service level management in order to translate what is in a contract related to the actual product which is sold to a customer, and then run the SLAs on the relevant, product scope, whatever conditions scope that is entitled to run that SLA. And then we've decided that we're not going to customize, we're going to actually align the data and do a data cleansing exercises and data management exercises to get the data to fit the CSDM in ServiceNow, rather to try to kind of break the data model and then go again into a customization trap. So these were kind of three important decisions. They were more than these three, but these were the three important decisions which were the base or that road for our journey to embark on. So, Malin, tell us what we did.
Yes. We do it. Yeah, so what we did, the first thing we did was to launching a new customer portal with more self-service and automation. This will be the primary point of contact for all the customers we have. We also offer B2B support without exploring the internal process, ensuring the security. To streamline operation, we use out-of-the-box process and the latest plugin for the best practices. We use new standards and clean customer data, including knowledge and service catalogs. We production the time card, and the new structure will streamline and simplify the technicals working way of working every day. And we will automate the invoicing through the TCP invoicing app inbound.
So that is kind of the actual technical scope of the first phase. So these products or these process applications we've implemented, so the CSM, the ITSM, we brought in, again, the customer data into a CSM data model, did a lot of modeling in order for data to fit the actual purposes, and run the processes. And then, as Malin said, for the technicians, the time card management, in order to be able to register the time, because as a service provider, you have to have the ability to invoice the customer. Historically, that invoicing has been done manually through Excel sheets, through a lot of manual steps, through several sources. But again, leading that data into ServiceNow and with using our custom application for the invoicing, Nordlo Improve is currently have the ability to actually run the invoicing from ServiceNow and from the practices and processes which are operated in ServiceNow as a platform. And that's kind of the technology point. But then we need to onboard the customer, because we need to move them from the old environment into a new. And there is that mindset shift, which is important and to take into account. So early, we've started to create what we call the customer onboarding runbook. So these are the steps which you can read. It's not really rocket science, but you need to encounter on a journey with customers. And every customer might be a little bit individual. There are, of course, all streamlined, and they are, of course, very individual. In the actual approach, these 7-step process is applicable for every single one of them. But we needed to engage with customer as a first thing. We needed to tell them that this will happen at that point in time. And in order to be able, because the customer would ask, okay, so what will be the change? How will we be impacted? What will we see? What we will not see? So in order to do that, we needed to feed, again, to bring in the data. So that customer data onboarding was, and of course, the data modeling was the key to success. So we populated the test environment, run the customer demo with customer representatives, got a lot of feedback, addressed the feedback, and then configured if there was anything which was specifically a must-have. But we stuck to the out-of-the-box, and then we went into a test and validation. We did the training for the internal team that actually served or supported the customer. And then at the actual time, we did the cutover and went live. And again, the most important aspect in this runbook was the data modeling. So we worked a lot of modeling the data into the CSDM and the CSM data model and not changing the practices and processes. As it always is, well, you know that every journey, there is some kind of an obstacle on the way. And even on this journey, yes, we encountered a couple of them. It started really at the beginning because it wasn't in the contract. That was one of the first kind of, not really the stop sign, but well, you need to, it's a red light, so we needed to wait. Due to the fact that Nordlo has been a ServiceNow customer for so long, there has been so many renewals along the way and so many license model conversions. So there ended up to be a little bit of a turbulence. Domain separation was kind of forgotten somewhere along the way, and we needed it for the compliance purposes. That in itself delayed the project for 3 weeks. Luckily, we did the analysis and design, so we could stretch a little, but we still lost some time. The same happened kind of with the time card management, because when you actually run 2 concurrent production instances, as we did in this place, or in this case, then you need to understand where is your license positioned and what you can enable in the one or the other. So some of the conflicts. So again, some contractual things to think about. If you're embarking on such a journey, you need to work tightly with ServiceNow to sort out that you have the right preconditions to actually be able to execute. Of course, there's the operations or the operational state of things, the resources which work in the project, they work in the operations. You know, the beauty of the project and resource management, when that reality checks in, some things can happen. Nordlo Improve staff is kind of on the younger side, so quite many of them young parents. And kind of what we did, we said, well, do not underestimate the power of, as it is called in Sweden, taking care of sick children. That had an impact on our timeline and the capacity. So plan for the unplanned. And it was that journey which we needed to, okay, can the GPS show me how can I drive now? So we've kind of tackled, how do we get there? How do we do a plan? Kind of what would be a plan B? How can we mitigate whatever has happened and still proceed to get to that final point where we want it to be? And then, as every transformation, it's a live switch. So we need to move all the capabilities which customer is kind of used to have into, it's going to be a new state. And you need to agree that it's not going to be exactly as it used to be back in the day when you used to work over there. It's going to be a little bit different in the new one. And of course, along the way, as this has been a 10-year journey which Nordlo Improve had with ServiceNow, there has been very specific customer solutions which we've discovered in the pond of, well, technical debt which were developed by people that actually left the company 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, which was, of course, documented entirely or not, which we needed to take care of and kind of find the relevant out-of-the-box capability to move it. So, of course, every journey has a plan, and then the plan in the end ends up being like a little bit something different. But for us, that first phase of a journey, which we did during the first half of the year, ended up being almost as we planned. So we had a few weeks delay due to the contractual issues with domain separation. That delayed technical implementation, but process applications, because we did a lot of out of the box, that was kind of smooth. That went through. The data modeling was a bigger effort, actually enormous effort, but then really and truly that enabled us at the end to have a very sound data in the platform. And then we had kind of struggle with, oh, are we going to have one pilot, or are we going to onboard the entire team and all the customers which belong to that team? And that was going kind of back and forth, and customer had their own opinions in the onboarding process. So even though we had a run book, customer went from, oh, we're up for it, to, no, we have this different project which we need to do first, so maybe later. And then we decided that the first pilot would go live, and it happened just before summer, and they've been running up until then. And then we started moving the other customers, or the other clusters with customers, as we call them. And the entire move of the customer community will happen throughout the autumn of this year. So we are actually working very heavily to move the customers from the old environment into a new greenfield one, and offer these new capabilities and new services to them. And then at the same time, which you don't see on this actual plan, in the autumn, we are starting to actually engage with the future phase. Before we jump into that future phase, the last poll for the afternoon. So again, back to that objective slide, because that's kind of what we want to achieve with this journey. So addressing all these objectives and enabling Nordlo Improve to fulfill them with ServiceNow products and capabilities. If you remember, we talked about, well, there's a control, we need to know, there's a lot of addition of the operational automation and so on. But really and truly, what we are trying to enable through enabling Nordlo Improve with ServiceNow as a digital platform for business, we want to enable the product owners, service owners, portfolio owners to have the ability to know what the product or a service that is produced, what it costs, and then what revenue is brought in. And all of that by using ServiceNow. So at the end of the day, when we implement a lot of things, we will be implementing digital portfolio management, which will then be used for the purposes of creating that knowledge, or giving ability to have that knowledge for the Nordlo Improve stakeholders. What are we improving as well? We are actually going to implement CSM Pro capabilities in the autumn. So more automation, more analytical ability, virtual agent, lots of improved capability which reside out of the standard offering. And then, as project management is one of the big deliveries, or projects are one of the big delivery forms for Nordlo, we are going to enable Nordlo by implementing project management and implementing customer project management to be able to involve customers into the joint projects between Nordlo and the customer, into those project activities and deliveries. And then at the same time, because all of this is kind of more customer oriented, at the same time, we'll work on the internal practices.
Yes, and we have already started to implement the procurement service management to integrate our business and customer process. But we have also begin to improve the employee experience, and we will implement HR service delivery given our employees more support. And the learnings, yes, we have many lessons learned to do, but I will share 2 things that I think is very, very important to take with us. Maybe seems simple, but difficult to succeed with. It is to inform early, but also involve and do it often and all the time during the journey. And remember that making the kinds to change is very much a culture change, and it's make time to do that, because it's about making many people to understand what we will do. Nedan, do you have any more lessons to share?
Yes, it's been and still is, but it's been a very powerful journey which we embarked on together jointly. Again, if you remember during that plan slide, we talked a lot about the importance of the organizational change management. So it's really important that technology is an enabler, but technology won't drive the change. It will enable the change. The people are very important to be taken care of in all aspects and in all organizations, especially if you're a provider consumer, a provider customer. If you have that kind of relationship, you need to work with both. Because again, customers have their own priorities. We have our own priorities. And sometimes they click, sometimes they're a little bit turbulent, sometimes they completely crash. And this needs to be taken into account. So just focusing on technology won't really change the world. So again, emphasizing the fact that the value of that organizational change management is enormous in a transformation like this. And of course, last but not least, it's really important to stay focused. Why are we doing this? So again, kind of pointed back to these objectives, which we've been almost nagging about. There was a list of objectives which we are trying to fulfill, moving away from manual work, automating, giving customer ability to do more self-service, being more proactive, having that ability. Because that really drives the change. That really kind of sticks us and the customer towards where we want to go. So we need to stay aligned and focused, and at the same time kind of efficiently manage those obstacles, because yes, they will pop up when you kind of least expect it. But then that will drive towards and enable reaching out the goal and the vision, so that we can end up in this sunny spot, which is at the end of this road. And when we're there, of course, there will be a new journey that might start around that corner. But first and foremost, we need to get to a sunny spot and kind of value or award ourselves with the value of what we were trying to achieve.
Thank you so much, Nenad and Malin, for sharing your experience and this really interesting journey. I don't know if there are any questions from the attendees. If so, you have the possibility to write it in the chat. While you're doing that, I will just briefly highlight some upcoming events. Next week, we have another webinar with Proven Optics and a customer talking about financial management processes. Then we have a seminar for those of you who are from Sweden. Then we have a seminar in Gothenburg where we talk about the Xanadu release and procurement operations. So it's 2 in 1. And that is an on-site event, but you can read more about that and sign up at our website. And then on October 17th, we are going to look at the Gen AI and employee experience, more specifically how to use AI capabilities to on the employee center and technology workflows. And that is my colleagues Sondra and Hannes who will do that. I can see we have a question now. And that is from Daniel. He writes, were there any capabilities that the consumer could not enjoy after the change? If so, could you give any examples?
Could you repeat? Sorry.
Yes. Were there any capabilities that the consumers could not enjoy after the change? If so, could you give an example?
We had, I wouldn't say many talks, but we had talks with a couple of customers that were kind of stick to that ITSM. We are supposed to see everything in the ITSM, and we are used to do so. And then kind of changing that mindset of simplifying the consumer or the customer interface through the customer portal. But again, it's more of a mindset change rather than the actual capability difference. From the capability perspective, we offered much more than they were used to. So that has been kind of the big win for both parties.
Thank you, Nanat. Are there any other questions? Also, I want to highlight, you mentioned the invoicing. We have a white paper about this. So if you would like to know more, you could please write in the chat and then I can send you a link. Otherwise, I think I will say thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much, Malin, for sharing your experience and the ServiceNow journey in Nordlo Improve. I can see we have another question. Oh, great. I will send it to you, Daniel. It's about the invoicing white paper. And thank you, Nanat, for also sharing your experience with this. Otherwise, I hope I will see a lot of you joining our upcoming webinars, and maybe some of you will attend our on-site seminar in Gothenburg. Otherwise, I will just say thank you very much for attending today. I wish you a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.